Joining us right now, New York Times best-selling author Nelson DeMille. Good morning, Nelson.
Good morning, Bulldog.
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
I got to tell you, I'm a huge fan. Read
Thank you.
many of your books and didn't realize you had such a great radio voice.
You ought to see my face.
Okay, that's weird.
Well, I've seen his website. He has a face for
I
radio.
know.
Yeah.
Oh, stop
Good.
it now.
Yeah. So do I. I resemble that comment.
Well, now, I don't know. Let's go back. What was the first book that you wrote?
Well, the first book I wrote was, the first hardcover was By the Rivers of Babylon, 1978.
Okay.
Seems like yesterday, but it wasn't. But I'd written a paperback before then called The Quest.
Okay.
In 1975, and I was just doing it kind of as a hobby. It's a paperback original, and it's actually being republished in hardcover on September 17th as a major book. So I'm excited about that. It was my first novel when I was a kid, and publisher's bringing it out again after 37 years as a hardcover, and it's called The Quest. It's about a search for the Holy Grail in the jungles of Ethiopia, and I think it's going to be a big one. I hope it's going to be a big one.
Well, I'm sure it will. I mean, I tell you, put your name on there, and I don't remember which one of your books I read first, but once I think it was The Charm School, and you can't put these down. I was trying to tell these guys it's one of those things you got to read it, then you go to the next one, then you go to the next one. Now everything's being made into movies, right? Isn't everything all your books almost being
they're
optioned?
they're all options.
Yeah.
They're being made. I don't know. General's Daughter was made in,
Sure.
I guess it was 97, 98 with John Travolta, Madeline Stowe, and James Woods. It was really a good movie. And a lot of authors won't say that about their books, but this one was actually a good one. And A Word of Honor, that you might remember, was made
Yes.
into a TNT movie years ago when I think TNT had 5 subscribers or something, but it was made. But Mayday, which I co-authored with Tom Block, a buddy of mine is a U.S. air pilot, airline disaster novels, made into a CBS TV movie with Aidan Quinn. So, we got some stuff out there, but it's all option, and hopefully some of it will come to fruition. I think the one that's going to be made next is Plum Island. It's going to be
Great book.
cable TV with a 5-part miniseries.
That's exciting. Now, what before writing? What were you? Were you working? Were you doing anything, or that was it?
Oh gosh, well I was I squeezed 4 years of college into 5, and but it's been 3 years in the Army. I was in Vietnam as an infantry officer.
All right.
And then I had a series of odd jobs after the Army. I started writing in '75. That first one, The Quest, I was doing it kind of as a hobby, and kind of kitchen table type of thing. But then I wrote By the Rivers of Babylon in '78. So I didn't have a career before writing.
Well, you certainly have one here. Now, do you? I mean, kind of a strange question to answer, but why do you? What is it about you that think different than other authors?
Oh gosh, what a question.
Well, I know that's why I said I don't want to really put you on the spot, but it is curious because, as I said, your books they're the ones you can't put down.
The phrase that the publisher uses, and I picked up from some reviewers, was the literate thriller writer.
Okay.
Like all of us in college, I grew up on the real classics, and I love them, and British and American classics. And I kind of try to bring some of it into. I don't want to dumb down the books. Maybe they are literate thrillers. There are more in the category of, let's say, John Le Carre, even Graham Greene, if I can be so bold as to compare myself. But I don't dumb down. I don't talk down to the readers. I mean, these are thrillers, but they have well-fleshed characters. Hopefully, the dialogue is good, and we're kind of proud of all of my books.
Well, you should be. And I'm proud to be able to have you on the show today. We're trying now. I did see The Panther. This is out now in paperback. Is that?
Yeah, The Panther came out last October, and they just put it out in paperback today, actually. And it's on all the newsstands and wherever it's supposed to be, and online and audio and ebook, the whole 9 yards. And The Panther is continuation of the series of John Corey. He's NYPD retired, now working for the Joint Terrorist Task Force. A lot of The Panther is set in, almost all of it is set in Yemen, which is now in the headlines as this book comes out. A lot of it has to do with the American embassy in Sana'a, which is the capital of Yemen. about the security issues at the embassy, and lo and behold, the last 2 days, they've closed the embassy up, and I know people who've been to the embassy. I interviewed a lot of people from the Joint Terrorist Task Force who had worked in the embassy. So I kind of knew the embassy. I knew it was a security problem. And when I wrote the book, there were problems already, but now the problems are so, intense that they actually had to close the embassy.
Did you go there at all at any point?
Well, I was going to go. I usually go where my books are set.
I was going to say, that's the reason you started writing, right? So you could write off all these awesome vacations.
Absolutely.
Well, but that's the thing. Yemen is that also.
Yeah, okay, maybe that one, yeah.
Next one is going to be set in Tahiti. My wife didn't want me to go. My ex-wife wanted me to go to Yemen. My present wife said, no, you can't go to Yemen. You have a 6-year-old and you got to stay home. But I was more adventurous when I was younger, and we all were. And I would have gone. I would have loved to have gone, but it wasn't in the cards.
How do you just decide what? I mean, how do you make a decision what to start writing about?
That's a really good question too, and that's a tough one. I am thinking about my next book now, which will be a John Corey book. So you got kind of some of it is built in already,
okay,
which is part of the series. But when it's not a series book, when it's a standalone book, you really have to think long and hard because it takes over a year to write the book, and then the publisher takes 6 months to publish it. And so you don't want to get too topical because the topic may have changed. So you look for something universal, and sometimes I decide on kind of a love story, sometimes on a mystery, a murder mystery. You just have to pick the genre first. Well, sometimes just a good idea pops into my head, or somebody gives me a good idea. So it's got a different genesis every time. Except the series books are going to be about John Corey and his wife Kate Mayfield and terrorism. That I know, so I got at least that much for a basis.
Okay, fair enough. Now, are the characters in your books based on anybody you know, or all created just right there out of your head?
Well, they're all composites.
Mm-hmm.
A few times came close to people who I knew who probably wanted to sue, but that's all right. If you recognize yourself, you may be right. But
well, like Corey, is this an alter ego type of thing?
Maybe more alter ego, yeah.
Okay.
John Corey's a wisecracking cop, and God knows I've known enough of them. Although,
Okay.
I live here in New York, and I don't want to be influenced by anybody in particular. Look, nobody's quite that interesting, so you have to kind of do a composite. The guys I know who are interesting are not as good looking as Corey, and the guys who are good looking are not that interesting. So you got to kind of put them together.
Now, something I've always wondered: do you know the end of the book when you start writing your book?
Well, that's another good question. Sometimes I do.
Okay.
And sometimes I don't. It's good if you do. I mean, advice to authors: really know the ending. Otherwise, the story's going to start meandering and wandering as you're thinking about the ending. If you know the ending, good. With General's Daughter, which was made into this feature film, it was a murder mystery set on an army base. I didn't know the ending, so I didn't know what I was doing. I was just kind of like, I was as clueless as the character of Paul Brenner, who was played by Travolta. But when I got to the end, I realized that I needed to find out who the murderer was, and I finally picked somebody. But then you have the luxury, because you're a writer, to go back and kind of plant a few clues. So you don't need to know the ending, but you need to go back and make sure that everything comports. I'd love to know the ending of some of these books.
But other times,
the ending suggests itself.
It's got to be exciting, like as you're writing, I'm assuming, and I don't know, but as you're writing, are you just as excited as you're putting the words down as I am when we read them?
They say if the author's not having fun, the reader's not going to be having fun. So,
Okay.
I've got to make it entertaining for me. A lot of authors, and you know this, are into the writing, the literature, maybe they're maybe a little self-conscious. But you can't do that. You got to be, entertaining. You got to entertain yourself. If you're entertained, if you want to sit down every day and do this and go on to the next chapter, then you know that the reader's going to have the same experience when he or she comes to the book.
Do you write X amount of chapters a day? Do you have a deadline goal for yourself every day or a certain amount of hours? How do you do that?
Theoretically, yeah. Theoretically, it's 3,000 words a day, but there are days when we don't do 3,000. But there are other days. One time I was just recently with The Quest, which I just finished. I worked till 3:30 in the morning because I was on a roll.
Okay.
And when you're on a roll. If you're on a roll, don't get up. Sit
Gotcha.
there and call the wife and say I won't be home for dinner. I might not even be home for breakfast. And there are other days when it doesn't come as easily. So you got. Also, I write longhand, so I do get fatigued sometimes. I don't type. I don't know how to type, so I write everything longhand, and I go through yellow pads and #1 pencils.
Man, those yellow pads have got to be worth a fortune. They should be in a museum someplace.
Well, you know where they are, actually. They're in Boston University Library.
Okay. They've got to. I mean,
wow.
Dude, I'm looking them up on eBay right now. They're selling them. Did you know that, Nelson?
That's right. I took a tax deduction, so we're even.
Wow, that's
BU
awesome.
BU came to me years ago and asked me if they could archive my materials, and I said sure. And so everything is there. Hopefully, it's still there. If they didn't sell it.
And real quick, I know you probably got to run, but do you still get excited? You're on an airplane, you're somewhere, and you see someone read your book. Is it exciting?
It is, and on the beach, and of course it depends on who that is. Sometimes some people are better looking than others, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, it is exciting. And then people actually talk about the book. This happened to me only about 6 months ago. So people were talking about, two guys were talking about my book, and I was sitting behind them, and it was good. It was good stuff. And happened to me in a restaurant once in Rome. I never forget it. It was my daughter. I was sitting there with her having dinner, and these people were from a bookstore in the States, and they were talking about Nelson DeMille. I said, my God, people actually talk about me behind my back. But it was all good talk, so I was happy.
Hey, let me tell you, just a personal note, I've recommended it so many times, had great conversations about so many of your books with people. You keep doing what you do. It's awesome. It really
Thank
is.
you so much.
It's a real pleasure and an honor to speak with you. Nelson DeMille.
I hope to see you in September if I can with the Quest, and I do have a website, nelsondemille.net.
Yeah, nelsondemille.net. Absolutely. We could schedule that for September right now. We would love to have you back anytime.
That'd be terrific. I love it.
All right. Well, good luck and continued success.
Thanks so much, both.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
That is a great author. Any of his books. Big Al, you want to start reading?
No, I don't.
Start with that.
But the yellow pads, his legal pads, they're in the library. I don't imagine how you could check those out. You'd think after you flip a page so many times, they may come undone. And
I don't think it's...
How you check that out? Check out the legal pad.
All right, Kramer. It's 7:52.
You being serious?
No, he's not being... I hope he's not.
Wait a second.
If he is, we're getting rid of him.